Though there have been notorious examples to the contrary, it usually takes a lot to get fired by ESPN. Of the 43 stalwarts being honored with their own stars on the ESPN Walk of Fame on this super summer afternoon, Berman, practically the network's avatar, and Bob, the General Lee, spelled L-E-Y, the network's best journalist, are not only the most recognizable ESPN personalities, but among the most recognizable guys ever to have a mic pack jab their rear ends. The two soak up the admiring applause of several hundred in the audience, other honorees, ESPN employees, and family members, press, and guests. In a moment that is somehow pure ESPN, Bob Lee looks down at his star and does a double take when he sees Rob Lee, L-E-E, spelled out in gold lettering, a double whammy of a blooper that causes colleague Bill Shanahan, standing next to Lee, to explode in guffaws. Some might consider this a perfect reminder that through the years, ESPN management has never liked its personalities to become big names anyway. Big names demand big bucks. They prefer keeping the talent humble. Bodenheimer handles the officiating with presidential aplomb alongside Sage Steele, born 7 years before ESPN was, as his mistress of ceremonies. Bodenheimer had rejected the organizing committee's first suggestion of an MC and made the outstanding choice of Steele himself, who represents everything you could ask for in an anchor. Berman and Lee speechify, then join other honorees posing for photos next to their stars, the Walk of Fame kind, misspellings and all, and also with Bodenheimer, who on this day seems more benevolently paternalistic than ever. Then they all adjourn to the ESPN Cafe and eat cake to commemorate the spectacular growth of the past 3 decades. ESPN was a funky little seat-of-the-pants operation in 1979 when it started, in a town so dull that employees worked 18-hour days to keep from dying of boredom outside. ESPN now encompasses 6 domestic U.S. cable networks, 46 international networks, ESPN Radio in North America and syndicated radio in 11 other far-flung countries, plus online operations, broadband, magazines, books, interactive media, wireless, CDs and DVDs, video games, and restaurants, all helping to pump coverage of more than 65 different sports into television sets, computers, and mobile phones in more than 250 countries. Once a bastard stepchild filed, along with almond groves, under Other among the holdings of Getty Oil, ESPN is now the most important component of the Disney empire, worth more than the entire National Football League, worth more than the NBA, MLB, and the NHL put together. This audiobook pursues the mystery of ESPN's rise to stratospheric heights from subterranean depths. It reveals how a crazy idea grew into one of the most successful media enterprises of all time. Those guys have all the fun. The men and women you will meet here spend their days and nights talking and thinking about sports. Hard as they work, ESPNers toil in an environment that most folks would consider pure pleasure. And when they aren't working, ESPNers still have all the fun, or at least most of it. At ESPN, partying is a varsity sport. What follows is not the history, but the story of ESPN. It would take a dozen or more weighty volumes to provide an all-encompassing account of ESPN's innumerable hours of nonstop broadcasting through more than 30 sports-saturated years. Still more time and space would be needed to fully chronicle the many thousands who have come and gone, or come and stayed, over the decades. Still, many of those who have entered ESPN's orbit are here, and here in their own words. To create this audiobook, over 550 people were interviewed, and the words you hear are their own. In some instances, their quotes have been cleaned up, removing, for example, the ums and the uhs that accompany most conversation, and certain discussions for the sake of clarity and exposition have been moved or compacted. But otherwise, what you hear is precisely as it was told to us. One thing that can be stated from the start is that the odds of ESPN happening just the way it did are somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000,000 to 1. All sports, all the time, 24/7 and 365 days a year? When the notion was hatched back in 1978, it was liberally ridiculed, even though logic and precedent tell us that eventually, somehow and somewhere, someone would have looked at the tremendous growth of sports and sporting events in the United States, noticed the morphing of athletes into superstar celebrities, taken stock of the wide open explosion in the number of potential cable networks, and realized that tens, even hundreds of millions of dollars were lying around waiting to be made. But it was hardly inevitable that anyone else's long and winding road to fruition as a media superpower would have started in a hamlet as unkempt, unlikely, and unheard of as Bristol, Connecticut. Maybe it all goes to prove that some higher power is a sports fan. Surely someone or something